So the first thing you do is you offer them water to drink, right? So this is the first bowl on the far left of the altar. You flip the bowl over and you fill it with clean, nice drinking water. This is number one, because coming out from outside of India, that's the first thing a guest would want. You would traditionally light incense to make the room smell pleasing, to cover up any bad smells coming in from outside, for everybody to feel happy, and it brightens the energy and all of that. So usually you have a bowl with rice in it and a couple incense sticks stuff.
You're taking a step away from ordinary life toward what is possible for you as a human, which is the birth of true compassion, true altruism and love for both ourselves and others.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Denver Dzogchen podcast. I'm here once again with Joseph Wagner, and today, as promised, we're going to talk about shrine and how to set up your shrine and why a shrine's important and all of this. We mentioned this somewhat in a previous episode, and thought it deserved a whole episode because it's such a central part of a Vajrayana practitioner's life. So welcome, Joe, and maybe you can introduce us to the topic of having a shrine and what all that means.
I'm not an expert. I do have a shrine, and I've had one for a long time. Sometimes people call it an altar. I don't know if it's really an altar. I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely a shrine. It's a crucial thing to have, and it's also kind of a step on the path as far as I'm concerned. If you think about how someone gets involved in the path of trying to attain enlightenment, first, usually modern day people, they watch podcasts, they watch YouTube videos. Then if they're a little bit old school, they start to read books, right? They start to collect books and they're reading things. Maybe they join a meditation group. And at some point, a shift occurs. And that shift has to do with their own personal meditation practice. So they end up buying a cushion. They end up buying a zafu, one of those round cushions, or a gomden, or some other kind of thing, a little bench or whatever to sit on. If they're even more hardcore, they buy also a zabuton, which is like the big square kind of cushion. So you sit on that with the cushion on top of that. You put that someplace in your house. That, for a lot of people, that's a real statement about what they're doing with their time, with their life. Now they're not just reading about spirituality or the path. Almost all Asian religions, the things we're interested in, have at their center the practice of meditation. In order to meditate, you have to have a place to do it. And this is the very foundation of going from someone who's an interested party, maybe you're even attending teachings, thinking about these things, reading books, watching videos, to I'm going to do this in my life. You buy a cushion. That's like this first step. After you do that for a while, you're meditating. I think it's natural that you have certain objects, pictures that inspire you, that make you feel like this makes me want to meditate, where it's a picture of a teacher who you relate to, or a statue of the Buddha, or whatever, a tanka, one of these kind of Tibetan style paintings, whatever, you end up putting that up. If it's a physical object, you need a place to put it. What's the place? A table. And that table becomes your shrine. And that's the very foundation. That's another step. Now you're creating a sacred space. You're creating an environment. And in that environment, you're going to have numerous things. We're going to talk about like what those are. But the main thing is you're going to have stuff that inspires you. And it's going to be in one place, not moving around, right? Whether you live in a studio apartment or a giant mansion, it's going to be in one place. And probably in front of that or right next to that or something is going to be your cushion for meditation. So you're going to be going in there, you're going to be making offerings to this statue or this picture or whatever, not because it's necessarily you believe that statue is this deity or something. We're not idolaters, but we are offering to our own higher selves, so to speak, to that which we're aspiring to actualize. And that's what a shrine sort of represents for the average person. That's just the basic idea. And it's kind of steps toward that.
Yeah. And so when you talk about, what goes on the altar, I would say that the first thing, there's kind of like three non-negotiables traditionally.
Hmm.
That one, you would have a body image of your Lama or the Buddha. So a Buddha statue or Rinpoche statue or a photo of your Lama, that would be for the body. You have a text. So usually like the Heart Sutra or some of the teachings of the Buddha or Tantra, something traditional to your lineage based on what you're practicing and you have a connection to, maybe like the Heart Sutra or the Diamond Sutra, and then a stupa or a crystal ball. And this is symbolizing the mind of the Buddha, right? So you're having the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Now, of course, you could have just the guru, and that could be all of those things. But traditionally, you have three representatives. In the center, you're going to have the Buddha or the Guru Rinpoche or your Lama. Then you're going to have a Dharma text, and then you're going to have a stupa of some kind or a crystal ball, in the Dzogchen tradition to represent the mind of the Buddha. And these are kind of like the essential objects to which you make offerings traditionally.
Very well said. Yeah, these usually I was kind of talking about it, how people get involved. But once you have a physical space, what you're doing is you're sacralizing that area of your house. Of course, ideal is you have a little house or you have a room that's solely for this. Many people, or most of us probably, don't really have that opportunity. So we just have a little corner. We have a little space. And maybe we have a little picture above, and we have a little table. And on the table, we have these three representatives. The body is a physical representation, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the Buddha, but that's what's most traditional. Could be Rinpoche, it could be a Yidam, whatever. The case is, the most important thing is it speaks to you. It says, here is a physical representation of enlightenment. And so for most of us, that's the Buddha, but it can be anybody. Buddha Shakyamuni, I mean. Guru Rinpoche is in the center of many Nyingma Pa's shrines and so forth. Then, as you said, got the speech representation, the Dharma, right? The Dharma is represented by texts. And that text could be in Chinese, it could be in Tibetan, and it could be in English. It doesn't really matter. It could be a great big thing. It could be a Pecha format. The most important part of it is it speaks to you, right? When I first got involved in Buddhism, I was a Zen practitioner. And for me, a Buddhist Bible, Keith Goddard or Dwight Goddard maybe, was like an important book. And that might be for someone the book that you put on the shrine. This is the teachings. So the Buddha, he comes in the form of a body. What he says is the form of the teachings, the Dharma. And so we have this text. And then the mind is, especially in our tradition, example is like a crystal. Something like that. Or the traditional way is a stupa, a small stupa. I bought a tiny little stupa, which I'll show you right now. When I was in India recently, I was in Bodh Gaya. We were looking around some little things. I found this tiny little cute little stupa. And it was just a very cute little thing. And it's got a little hole in the bottom in which you could put sacred substances or mendrup or dutsi or a relic of some sort or whatever. That represents the mind of the Buddha. And when you have that, really you have everything. That's really everything. If you have those three things, you got everything. Of course, in Dzogchen, they say, oh, no, you have to have the Sanjay Sechik Tantra as the Buddhist requisite. You have to have a statue of Vajrasattva. Whatever. It's not that important. Everybody's got to have a Vajra on their shrine. Come on. These three things. And they can, in a pinch or in the beginning, for those of you who are just thinking like, well, do I want to do this? They can be represented just by one of those three. Certainly fine to have just a stupa or just a crystal if you're really like kind of like a nature person. That'd be okay too. Or you could have just a statue of the Buddha. Totally fine. The most important thing is you keep that area clean. You keep that area dust-free to some degree. You don't just put the statue just on the table. You have a little cloth or a little stand or something. You are creating an environment in which what you are shooting for, which is enlightenment for the good of all beings, is represented outwardly in a way that you can relate to it. And in that way it becomes a kind of, I'll talk about this more perhaps later, but a kind of machine. A real shrine is a mandala. A mandala is a palace of the deity, and you are the deity in the palace. When you set this up in your house becomes a mandala itself. And this is very important because we live in such a secular environment. We need to sacralize our environment. Otherwise, we're kind of like we're not really doing it. And the Tibetans have got this down. So their houses are like Damien's room there, filled with thangkas and filled with statues and filled with little offering bowls and little small shrines with little flowers and a statue of Tara or whatever. All why do we do it? Not because Tara lives in that statue. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. That's a different topic. But because when we see that, it's a mirror. It's a mirror to our own higher possibilities. And we think, Tara is compassionate, I'm going to be compassionate. When I make offerings, I'm not idolatrizing this physical object. It's that is a mirror of this part of myself that represents love, that represents compassion, that represents stick-to-itiveness in the case of the Buddha, or whatever, renunciation of my many confused desires. And that's what the shrine operates on in one level. And that's why it's so important for every practitioner to have one.
Yeah. So I want to get a little bit into the actual mechanics of how to set this up, just so people have something to refer to. And so what the traditional offerings are about is that this all comes from India. And in India, there is a very specific custom around when you have a guest come to your house. And this process is what you're reenacting on your altar every day. And I think this is important to know. So the first thing you do when somebody comes in we're just in India, so you know all about this. You come in covered in dirt and you're dehydrated and you probably feel like crap. So the first thing you do is you offer them water to drink, right? So this is the first bowl on the far left of the altar. You flip the bowl over and you fill it with clean, nice drinking water. This is number one, because coming out from outside of India, that's the first thing a guest would want. Number two, a bowl of water for washing, because you are dirty. Like Joe said, he likes to wash his socks after being in India, which I can fully comprehend because it is dusty and dirty and you need to wash. So you wash your hands and you wash your feet and you wash your face. So the second bowl is water for washing. So you fill it up with nice clean water for washing yourself. Because no one feels comfortable when their hands are dusty and their feet are dusty. Everybody's wearing sandals back in the day, so their feet were super dirty. So they would clean all that up. The next thing is flowers. So usually you have either a flower torma, which you can buy on like Pataligate or something like this, or you can just get from a craft store, like a plastic flower, or you can buy fresh flowers and change it out continuously. But the next one is you offer flowers. This would be, sometimes they would offer a lei, kind of traditional flower garland around the person's neck. And this was a way of receiving a noble guest. Or, in our Western culture, it'd be like offering a bouquet. But so we have this symbol of flowers. This is what we offer to a noble guest who comes to our house. Next is incense. You would traditionally light incense to make the room smell pleasing, to cover up any bad smells coming in from outside, for everybody to feel happy, and, it brightens the energy and all of that. So usually you have a bowl with rice in it and a couple incense sticks stuck in it. This is the incense offering. It's symbolic. You also could light incense and then put that in a burner, but that would be not on the altar traditionally. It would be on the floor or a lower position, a separate place, because burning dust and ashes you don't really want on your altar. So they're just 3 clean incense sticks in rice for that offering is sufficient. Next is light. Light is very important, symbolically representing knowledge and wisdom, but also just the ability to see as you're having a guest over for dinner, this sort of thing. So, before electric world, you can have either a candle or a LED candle like Joe likes to use. And so that goes in a little bowl. Also, usually use rice for most of these if you want to bring it up a level so you can see it. If it's too far down in the bowl, then you can put some white rice in there and set it on top, either a tea light or an electric tea light. So you're bringing light to the dinner. Then the next one is water with saffron tea in it, basically. Usually if you have a Bumpa, but you don't have to have that, but most practitioners will at some point, and in that is saffron water. This is very easy to make, just like tea. You take a few strands of saffron, you put it in hot water, you filter it out, you have saffron water. And you can keep that in the bumpa to the side of your shrine or on the shrine, and you can put a little bit in some water there. And this is, you're anointing the guest with some kind of perfume, right? So that's what this is symbolic of. However you want to do that, don't get hung up on the details. Saffron water, that's the main point. And then the next one is food. You're offering them dinner. And usually, traditionally in Tibet, this would be a torma. They would use a real torma, or you get a metal torma, or a fired porcelain torma. There's many options here. You could also do like a symbol for food, which could be like, a kind of piece of candy or something like that. But you can buy, a nice little torma that goes on the rice, or an apple or a piece of fruit or something you change out regularly if you don't want to use the symbol. This is dinner.
And for the final of the 7 offerings, we offer music. And this is symbolized usually by a conch shell. And just like the previous ones, you can put it in the bowl with a little bit of rice and then set a little small conch shell on there. I've also seen people do like an ornament of like a violin, or, you can kind of be creative, whatever symbolizes music to you. I guess you could put a CD on there or something, if anybody even knows what those are anymore. But this last one, so you've offered them food, and now traditionally, you would have like the sitar and the Indian traditional classical music offered to a noble guest. So this is the final aspect of the 7 offerings.
Just wanted to go over that so you can get some idea of what it is you're doing. And basically, some of them kind of stay the same, and some you take down and put up every day traditionally. So the water and the candle and the incense and the food, depending on whether it's a torma or real food, you would like change these out, right? So you dump the water out. So when you set up your altar, you go from left to right, just like you're reading. And at night, when you take it down, you go from right to left. And so you're closing those water bowls, you put them in a pitcher and you pour it and dump it outside. And then in the morning, you put fresh water and you can dry the bowls, and you can keep them like upside down, the water ones, overnight. Then in the morning, you open them starting left to right and refill them like this. And as you go down the line, you can do the things appropriate. So if you're offering incense, then you can offer the incense. When you get to the candle, you light the candle or turn it on. You get to the scented water, you fill the water, put the scented water in, and if you have a real food offering, you can make a fresh food offering, or if it's the torma, then you just kind of visualize. And all of this you can visualize and multiply, and that's really important in the Vajrayana. You can imagine infinite candles, infinite incense, infinite food, infinite buffet, this sort of thing, as you go through and make your offerings. And you can kind of use the traditional Ram Yam Kham Oma Hung. Ram Yam Kham purifies, and Oma Hung multiplies and increases. So you're just making this offering. This is much detail as I could probably get into here, but I wanted you to have a general sense of what it is we're doing and how to do it. There are more videos on YouTube that'll actually like walk you through all of that. But this is the general idea.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. Yeah. For those of you who are just getting started with this, making offerings, why are you doing that? Again, you're making offerings to your own path, to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as representatives of what is possible for us. So don't think that as Westerners, and especially as Christian, many of us have a Christian background, even if we're never a Christian or Jewish, there's a sort of feeling that idolatry is bad. So you want to be a little careful with this in your own psychology. What are you really doing? You're making offerings to your own path by recognizing, hey, the Buddha, what does Buddha represent? Absolute accomplishment, the highest level of humans. In fact, I take this as an opportunity. When I was in Bodh Gaya just a few weeks ago, they had these posters advertising the anniversary of the Buddha's enlightenment, depending on which tradition. I can't remember what the exact date was. And it said, come and celebrate the highest accomplishment of humankind or of all time, or some kind of thing like that I was really like, wow, they really see this is a Hindu country, but man, do they recognize that the Buddha pulled something major off. Our own little shrines and our own little lives of practice, we're acknowledging the same thing. The Buddha woke up. I want to wake up too. I'm asleep. I know that. So I make offerings to this awoken part of myself. If that speaks to you more than making offerings to some celestial form of some deity or something, just important to keep that in mind. I really like the way that you described all the offerings and stuff. This is exactly right. Usually they're done in little offering bowls, and you can buy those offering bowls. We always push Patala Gate. I like those guys a lot. They're really sweet, and but there are many places online. You can get them from Etsy. You can probably get them from Amazon. For goodness sake, there's usually 7 bowls. The simplest way is to make only offerings of water. This is done everywhere in Tibet, in Nepal, in India, and although when you do a sadhana practice, like a cycle where you're really setting up your shrine as a kind of mandala machine to capture and enhance the blessings, then you usually do use this sort of incense in the special way and all the different things. It's okay as just getting started or your whole life to just offer water. Water symbolizing water for washing, water for drinking, flowers, incense, lamps, perfume, food, music, the traditional offerings, just as Damien very nicely described. Uh, yeah, I was going to say something about not wearing your shoes in India. It's so weird. There's a grocery store we were in Tiruvannamalai where Ramana Maharishi was, and there's the Ramana grocery store. So we went in there as one of the first things, get some water, get some other stuff. You can't wear your shoes in the grocery store. And people would wear sandals everywhere. So their feet are disgusting. And here they are walking around in the store with bare feet. It's the opposite of what you would expect. You just think they'd be forcing you to wear your shoes. No, you're wandering around in this muddy grocery store with all the other hookworm infested Indian pilgrims. It's hilarious. And anyway, that's why we offer water for washing, because it's dusty in the world. And if you're going around with bare feet, your feet are dirty. This kind of idea. So, and just as Damien said, you just have a little pitcher, you fill it up with pure water. In the morning, you turn the bowls over, water for washing, water for drinking, flowers, and like that. That's the simplest way. At night, you empty them out. And Damien said you pour that outside, and that's exactly right. Don't pour it down the sink. Don't pour it in the toilet. You want to offer it to plants or throw it in your yard. Pour it in a clean place. That's what they usually say. Because it's been an offering, it's a little bit consecrated or blessed. So you want to offer that in a clean place. You don't want to just pour it in the toilet. This creates like a negative karmic relationship with those offerings, just to be sure about that. But the main thing to do is what you're doing is you are taking a step away by having a shrine in the first place, by having a meditation cushion in the first place. You're taking a step away from ordinary life toward what is possible for you as a human, which is the birth of true compassion, true altruism and love for both ourselves and others, a true responsibility for this life and what we can do with it. And then when you make those offerings, you're making that offering first thing in the morning to this aspect of yourself and of this aspect of all beings. It helps to equalize everyone. And, this is what this is really about. If we understand the psychology, we're more likely to do it. If someone says, you need 7 bowls, fill them up with water, then maybe you do it, but it doesn't have any, you're kind of like, what the hell? You feel like a foreigner in your own religion. That's not good. When you recognize, like, I want to be clean. May all beings be clean. I want to have water to drink. May all beings have this. I want the environment to smell good. I want us to have flowers on the table. I want to have food, whatever. Then that you're building up your compassion and you're making offerings to that part of you, which is the part that you're honoring and training on the whole path. So just to put it in a perspective that the average listener can understand what it means.
And for those of you practicing guru yoga, for me, like for a long time, I was doing these 7 offerings and I didn't really understand what we were doing. Like I got the general idea that incense and water are nice things, but I didn't really understand this like receiving of a guest, an honored guest, like a royal guest. Once I started doing that and I united it with my guru yoga practice. So I actually just visualized my lama on the throne, my shrine. And then as I do, and I'm imagining serving him like a noble guest, like a king. This strikes my heart much stronger than this kind of fully symbolic thing, right? So if you're into that, if you're practicing Guru Yoga, this is an amazing way to develop devotion. You could visualize Guru Rinpoche or Shakyamuni like right in front of you and actually imagine offering them flowers and incense and, like getting the blessings of their body by making offerings to it. I think this can really give a connection on a deeper, more heartfelt level than just this kind of like abstract Tibetan thing that we don't really understand.
Very good. Yeah, doing it, we have to make these things our own. This is so important. As we said in the last episode, we're in a transition period. The Dharma has been in Tibet for 1,000 years, and it's still in Tibet. Things are pretty good there. It's okay. But now it's transitioning. It's transitioning to the West, with like the European West, to the South American West, to the American West, and also to China. It's coming back to China. So they're rediscovering their roots of this. And what does it mean to be a Buddhist practitioner? We have to discover that ourselves. So you're making these offerings, but maybe when you're offering water for washing, you're offering a whole swimming pool because you love swimming so much. That's okay. Whatever speaks to you. And then maybe they offer traditional incense. Maybe you don't like incense. So you're offering something else that smells amazing.
Essential oils or something.
Essential oils or sato, palo, whatever that stuff from South America. This speaks to you. You got to make this your own. As Damien was saying, and when you make the offerings, you're making them to that which is highest to you. Could be your guru, could be the Dalai Lama, could be Shakyamuni, whatever. You're making these offerings to them, and you're making a connection, and they're happy because if you give someone flowers, they get a smile on their face. Even if they don't like flowers, they're like, "Wow, that's cool. Thanks for going to the trouble." Same thing here, and you feel that warmth. Even though it's a visualization, that's the power of pure perception, like we talked about in our last episode.
Yeah. Well, and tying this again to our last episode, maybe you met your Lama only once, or you see them only once a year, this sort of thing, or once every 5 years. If you really do this offerings every day and imagine you're seeing them in person and you're doing this, then you're making sure that relationship is there every single day. Like this is how you see your Lama every day. Like we need to do this. Otherwise, we just lose it. We lose the thread because the world, like you said, is so secular. And having a relationship to somebody, like the way like the Tibetans really understood gift giving was how you bond to somebody, right? Like when we do the kata thing, you offer them the kata and then they give it back to you, right? So now you've given them a gift and they've given you a gift. Now you're really karmically connected. They understood that's kind of like how karma works. So making offerings is a supreme, easy, powerful method for building your relationship. And if you're practicing Guru Yoga, this is it. But even if you're not practicing Guru Yoga, just your connection, like Joe's been saying all along, to your highest self, to the path, to the founder of your teachings, of the teachings you're practicing. All of these things, gift giving is how you connect to it and stay connected to it. You have to have a relationship. And so, you do these offerings and then you do your prostrations to the altar and this like turns it on, right? Like this is like, we've talked about it being like a blessing generating machine, right? This mandala that it's like, that's how the juice gets going. And then your prostrations are like pulling the ripcord, right? Like on a lawnmower and you're getting the engine started and it goes and it powers you through the whole day. Even as you go to work and all of this, you're still connected to it because you turned this on. I think this is so potent.
Very good. Yeah. We're going to conclude, but I want to encourage everybody to set up something, a shrine in your house. And what is it? It needs to speak to you, right? Whether it's traditional stuff or not. If this traditional stuff speaks to you, that's great. If it doesn't, just a statue, just a crystal, just a beautiful stone that you found that represents nature in its most pure form, whatever. Having something where it's not that you're focusing on it, but you're honoring that aspect with this. And then that creates a relationship with whatever it is you're honoring, and that builds it up in you. And that's what the real Guru Yoga really is. It's making a relationship.
Yeah. And this process takes years. Like this Vajrayana process, you at first it's like forced and it feels weird and it feels foreign and you're gonna feel all those things. And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I guarantee you're gonna do things wrong. If you want to follow the traditional model, you'll be like 3 years down the road, you'll be like, oh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. And I still find things all the time that I've been doing wrong for 20 years. That's okay, because it's the intention that matters. So don't get hung up on like, am I doing this perfectly? Just know that your intention to connect to your path and to make offerings to your highest self is happening every day. That's the main thing. Like Joe said, you can do this in so many different ways. If the tradition has potency behind it, right? This morphogenetic field behind all of these people having done this for so long. So there is power in following the traditional model, but don't get like, I can't do it. It's too complicated. You know, like don't get caught up that way. Just go. Just try, do your best and make corrections over time. It'll be fine and it'll change. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, it's an opportunity. The Dharma, whatever the Dharma here means the law, the practice, is the opposite of ordinary life. It is against the grain. So, of course, do we make offerings in our regular life? In a sense, yes, but this is a formal way of doing it, and it's acknowledging every morning and every evening what's most important. That's what this is really about, right? And giving it a foundation in your life. It has real estate. It's got space. It's holding space. That means it's important. And the more important it is, the more space it will hold. As I've seen Damien's shrine. He's got a great big I've got a whole little house in my yard that's only for this stuff. So does that happen? Yes. But what's the intent behind it or the goal behind it? To make space for this new you in this old life. And that's what we really are trying to do. It isn't about worshiping some weird deities. It's not about that at all.
Yeah, it's this, what's the center of your life? Like I know so many people that have like a video game center, that's like they've got speakers and a TV and you walk in their house and you're like, dude, this guy's a gamer. Like that's the altar at which they worship, well, right? And this is what we're doing. Like how many people, that football, they wear the jerseys and their television is as big as their wall and all of this stuff. Like our physical space tells us, ourselves, and the world what is most important to us. And so
beautiful.
This is a powerful method for transforming that.
Let's leave on that. That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. As always, thank you, Ricky, our producer. Thank you for watching and listening every week, every 2 weeks. We really appreciate you doing all the things, supporting our show, asking questions, making comments. As you can see, we do these topics based on what you guys ask us to do. So please ask. We actually try to do that. We write them down and we keep them in the docket and we get to them as soon as we can. So thanks again. We really appreciate you. Go forward in your path and enjoy yourself as you make your altar and whatever practices you do.
Beautiful.
See you in 2 weeks.